The morning sun cast long shadows across the playground of Roosevelt Elementary School in suburban Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was Tuesday, March 14th, 2023, and the warmth of early spring had coaxed everyone outdoors. Teachers stood in small clusters near the fence line, clutching their coffee cups while keeping watchful eyes on the children. Laughter and shouts of joy filled the air as dozens of kids ran freely during their morning recess, their colorful jackets creating a moving mosaic against the worn blacktop. 8-year-old Emma Martinez was having the time of her life. Her dark ponytail bounced as she chased her best friend, Sophia, around the jungle gym. Emma had been excited all morning. Her mother had packed her favorite lunch, peanut butter and strawberry jelly, and her teacher, Mrs. Peterson, had promised they'd start their butterfly unit in science class after recess. Life was perfect, simple, and beautifully ordinary. "Emma, over here," Sophia called, waving from the swing set. Emma pivoted and sprinted toward her friend, her new sneakers squeaking against the pavement. But halfway across the playground, something changed. Emma's vision blurred. The world tilted sideways, colors bleeding into one another like wet paint. Her chest tightened, and a strange metallic taste flooded her mouth. "Sophia," Emma's voice came out as a whisper. Her friend's face seemed to be growing distant, even though Sophia hadn't moved. Emma tried to take another step, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. They felt like rubber, disconnected from her body. Then, without warning, Emma's entire body seized. Her muscles locked rigid as steel, her arms jerking violently at her sides. She couldn't scream, couldn't call for help. Her consciousness flickered like a dying light bulb, and then she was falling. The sickening crack of Emma's head hitting the concrete playground echoed across the schoolyard. For a split second, everything froze. Children stopped mid-run, teachers dropped their coffee cups, and even the birds seemed to pause their chirping. Then chaos erupted. "Emma!" Sophia's scream pierced the air, raw and terrified. She dropped to her knees beside her friend's convulsing body. Emma's eyes had rolled back, showing only whites. Foam gathered at the corners of her mouth, pink tinged with blood from where she'd bitten her tongue. Her small body thrashed against the hard ground, limbs flailing in violent, uncontrolled spasms. Mrs. Peterson reached Emma first, her heart hammering in her chest. "Someone call 911, now." She positioned herself beside Emma, trying to remember her first aid training through the surge of panic. "Turn her on her side, protect her head. Don't restrain her, time the seizure." Within seconds, school nurse Sarah Chen came sprinting from the building, her medical bag bouncing against her hip. Sarah had been a registered nurse for 15 years before taking this school position, but the sight of little Emma seizing violently still sent ice through her veins. She dropped to her knees, her professional training overriding her fear. "Everyone back. Give us space." Sarah barked at the gathering crowd of children and teachers. With trembling fingers, she pulled her phone from her pocket and dialed 911, wedging it between her shoulder and ear while simultaneously checking Emma's airway. 911, what's your emergency? This is Sarah Chen, school nurse at Roosevelt Elementary, 4782 Maple Grove Avenue. I have an 8-year-old female, severe tonic-clonic seizure, approximately 90 seconds duration. She's breathing but unresponsive, pupils dilated. We need an ambulance immediately. "Ma'am, we're dispatching units now. They'll be there in approximately 4 minutes. Stay with the child and—" "Her lips are turning blue," Sarah interrupted, her voice rising. She tilted Emma's head back slightly, ensuring her airway remained clear. "Come on, sweetheart, breathe. Just breathe for me." The seizure showed no signs of stopping. 2 minutes. 2.5. Sarah knew that anything over 5 minutes constituted a medical emergency, status epilepticus, which could cause permanent brain damage. Emma's small body continued its violent dance against the concrete, despite Sarah's attempts to cushion her head with her jacket. Around them, teachers herded crying children away from the scene. Sophia refused to leave, tears streaming down her face as she watched her best friend fight for her life. "Is she going to die?" the little girl sobbed. No one could answer her. In the distance, sirens began to wail. The sound grew louder, closer, more urgent. Principal Dr. Helen Wright ran to the front of the school, waving frantically to guide the ambulance to the playground entrance. The paramedics needed to reach Emma fast. Every second mattered. The ambulance screeched into the parking lot, followed closely by a fire department rescue unit. Paramedic Jake Morrison, a veteran with 12 years of emergency response experience, grabbed his medical bag and bolted toward the crowd of people gathered on the playground. His partner, EMT Christina Hayes, was right behind him with the portable stretcher and oxygen equipment. "Make way, medical emergency," Jake's commanding voice cut through the chaos. Teachers parted like the Red Sea, and Jake dropped to his knees beside Emma and Sarah. One look at the child's condition told him everything. This was bad, really bad. "How long?" he asked Sarah, his hands already moving efficiently, checking Emma's pulse, her pupils, her breathing rate. 3 minutes, 40 seconds, Sarah replied, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "Okay, we need to move fast. Christina, oxygen ready. We're going to stabilize her here and then transport immediately to Children's Hospital." Jake worked with practiced precision, slipping an oxygen mask over Emma's small face, establishing an IV line in her tiny arm. The seizure finally began to subside, leaving Emma's body limp and unresponsive. As they carefully transferred Emma onto the stretcher, her mother, Diana Martinez, came running from the parking lot, having received a frantic call from the school office. The sight of her daughter, pale, lifeless, surrounded by emergency workers, nearly brought Diana to her knees. "My baby! What happened to my baby?" Diana's anguished cry rang across the playground, a mother's worst nightmare playing out before her eyes. "Ma'am, we're taking care of her," Jake assured her, though his face remained grave. "We need to get her to the hospital right now. You can ride with us." They wheeled Emma quickly across the playground toward the school building, heading for the main hallway that led to the front entrance where the ambulance waited. Time was critical. Emma's oxygen levels were dangerously low, her vital signs unstable. Every second counted. But as they approached the corridor, none of them could have predicted what was about to happen next, or that a dog's instinct would be the only thing standing between them and certain death. The fluorescent lights of Roosevelt Elementary's main hallway flickered slightly as Jake Morrison and his team rushed Emma's gurney through the double doors. The wheels squeaked against the freshly waxed floor, creating an eerie soundtrack to their desperate race against time. Diana Martinez ran alongside her daughter, clutching Emma's small hand, whispering prayers in Spanish under her breath. "Straight shot to the front entrance," Jake called out to Christina. "Ambulance is waiting. We'll have her at Children's Hospital in 12 minutes. His confident tone was meant to reassure Diana, but inside, his gut churned with worry. Emma's vitals weren't improving as quickly as he'd hoped. The hallway stretched before them, long and empty. Classroom doors lined both sides, silent sentinels to the drama unfolding. The morning announcements crackled from the PA system, absurdly cheerful given the circumstances, something about pizza day in the cafeteria tomorrow. None of them paid attention. Their entire focus was on the little girl fighting for her life. They were maybe 30 feet from the front entrance when a massive German shepherd suddenly appeared at the far end of the corridor, as if materialized from thin air. The dog moved with purpose, positioning himself directly in their path. His muscular body blocked the entire width of the hallway, creating a living barrier between the medical team and the exit. Jake barely glanced up. "Whose dog is that? Someone get it out of the way." But the dog didn't move. Instead, Thor, as his collar identified him, lowered his head, planted his paws wide, and released a deep, rumbling growl that seemed to come from the earth itself. His lips curled back, revealing impressive canines. Every hair along his spine stood at attention. "What the hell?" Jake stopped the gurney abruptly, nearly causing Christina to stumble. This wasn't normal dog behavior. This was a trained police K9 in full alert mode. Behind Thor, Officer Marcus Rodriguez came jogging down the hallway, confusion etched across his face. He'd been conducting a routine safety check of the building, standard procedure for K9 units in the district, when Thor had suddenly bolted away from him. In 4 years of partnership, Thor had never disobeyed like this. "Thor, heel," Marcus commanded, his voice sharp with authority. The German shepherd's ears twitched, acknowledging his handler's voice, but his body remained firmly planted. If anything, his growling intensified. "Officer, we have a critical patient here." Jake's patience was evaporating like water on hot pavement. "We need to get through right now. That's a dying child." Marcus rushed forward, grabbing Thor's collar and attempting to pull him aside. It was like trying to move a boulder. Thor's muscles were locked, his 90-pound frame seemingly weighing 1,000 pounds. The dog's dark eyes were fixed on the hallway ahead, not with aggression but with laser-focused intensity. "I don't understand," Marcus muttered, genuinely baffled. "He's never done this. Thor, what's wrong, boy?" Diana Martinez pushed past the paramedics, her maternal desperation overriding everything else. "Move that dog. My daughter is dying." Her voice cracked with anguish, tears streaming down her face. She tried to rush past Thor, but the dog shifted his position, blocking her as well. He wasn't being aggressive, wasn't snapping or lunging, but he absolutely refused to let anyone pass. School nurse Sarah Chen caught up to the group, breathless. "What's happening? Why have we stopped?" "The dog won't move," Christina explained, her own frustration mounting. Behind them, more people were gathering, teachers, staff members, all drawn by the commotion. The hallway was becoming crowded, chaotic. Thor's behavior became increasingly agitated. His nose worked frantically, sniffing the air in rapid, short bursts. His head moved back and forth, scanning the corridor ahead. Whatever he sensed, whatever invisible threat had triggered his alert instincts, was getting stronger. Principal Helen Wright arrived on scene, her professional composure cracking under the pressure. "Officer Rodriguez, I'm ordering you to remove your dog immediately. This is a life-or-death situation." "I'm trying," Marcus shot back, now genuinely alarmed by his partner's behavior. He'd seen Thor alert to drugs, explosives, even hidden suspects, but this was different. Thor's body language screamed danger, yet there was nothing visible to threaten them, just an empty hallway. Jake made a decision. "We'll go around him. Christina, help me turn the gurney." They attempted to maneuver the stretcher past Thor, angling it toward the wall. The German shepherd immediately repositioned himself, staying between the medical team and the exit. His barking erupted, sharp and insistent. Woof, woof, woof. Each bark echoed off the walls like a warning bell. "This is insane," Jake exploded. "Emma's oxygen saturation is dropping. We don't have time for this." Then, like a scene from a movie, another K9 unit appeared at the opposite end of the hallway. Officer Lisa Chen and her Belgian Malinois, Ace, had heard the commotion over the radio and responded to assist. But when Ace caught sight of Thor and the corridor ahead, the dog immediately exhibited identical behavior. Ace's lean body went rigid, his ears pinned back. Without any command from Lisa, the Malinois rushed forward and joined Thor, both dogs now forming an impenetrable wall across the hallway. Ace's nose worked overtime, sniffing frantically at the air, at the walls, at the very molecules around them. Lisa Chen stopped dead in her tracks. "What the? Ace never acts like this on his own." The two K9 officers locked eyes across the crowded hallway, a silent understanding passing between them. Both of their dogs, trained to the highest standards, completely independent of each other, were displaying the exact same alert behavior. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't confusion. This was something else. Marcus felt ice water flood his veins. He'd served 2 tours in Afghanistan before becoming a police officer. He'd learned the hard way to trust when something felt wrong, even when logic said otherwise. Both dogs were alerting to something deadly, something humans couldn't detect. "Wait," Marcus said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Everyone stop." "We don't have time to stop," Jake protested, checking his watch. Emma had been seizing nearly 6 minutes ago. Every moment delayed could mean permanent brain damage. "These dogs are trained to detect threats," Marcus continued, his mind racing through possibilities. "Explosives. No visible device. Drugs. Irrelevant in this context." Then it hit him. Thor was trained in multiple detection specialties, including hazardous materials. The way his nose was working, the direction of his alert. "Gas," Marcus said suddenly, the word falling like a stone into still water. "They're detecting gas." Jake's face went pale. "That's impossible, we'd smell it." "Natural gas has mercaptan added to it, a sulfur smell. But in high concentrations, it can actually deaden your sense of smell." Marcus's military training kicked into high gear. "If there's a leak in that corridor and it's reached explosive levels." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Everyone understood the implications. Diana Martinez looked between her dying daughter and the blocked hallway, her face a mask of anguished confusion. "So what do? We can't just stand here." Marcus made a split-second decision that would save all their lives. "The gymnasium. There's an emergency exit through the gymnasium. We take her out that way. Now." "That's on the complete opposite side of the building," Jake protested. "It'll add 3, maybe 4 minutes." "And going through that hallway might kill everyone here," Marcus shot back. "Officer Chen, start evacuating this area. I'm calling the fire department." For a long, tense moment, nobody moved. The decision hung in the air like a sword. Trust the dogs and lose precious time, or ignore them and take the direct route. Jake looked at Emma's pale face, at the oxygen mask fogging weakly with each shallow breath, at Diana's tear-stained, desperate expression. Then he looked at Thor and Ace, both dogs trembling with the effort of holding their ground, both refusing to let their humans walk into danger. "All right," Jake finally said, his jaw tight. "We go through the gymnasium, move." They spun the gurney around, racing back the way they'd come, taking the long route through the school's east wing. Diana ran alongside, sobbing with frustration and fear. Behind them, Marcus was already on his radio, calling for fire department response. As they rounded the corner toward the gymnasium, none of them heard the faint hissing behind the walls of the main hallway. None of them detected the invisible, odorless natural gas that had been accumulating for hours in the enclosed space, reaching critical concentration levels. But Thor and Ace had known. And in 60 seconds, everyone would understand exactly why the dogs had refused to move. The gymnasium's emergency exit seemed impossibly far away, as Jake and Christina maneuvered Emma's gurney through the narrow corridors of Roosevelt Elementary's east wing. The wheels caught on every crack in the aging linoleum floor, each bump sending jolts through Emma's fragile body. Diana Martinez kept pace alongside them, her hand never leaving her daughter's, her prayers now silent but no less desperate. "Emma's pressure is dropping," Christina announced, her eyes fixed on the portable monitor. "Jake, we're running out of time." "I know," Jake's response came through gritted teeth. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool March air. Every instinct in his body screamed that they'd made the wrong choice. They should have pushed past those dogs. They should have taken the direct route. Those precious minutes could mean the difference between Emma living and dying, between a full recovery and permanent brain damage. Behind them, the hallway had erupted into controlled chaos. Officer Marcus Rodriguez was on his radio, his voice urgent but steady. "Dispatch, this is Unit 347, requesting immediate fire department response to Roosevelt Elementary. Possible natural gas leak in the main corridor. Evacuate all personnel from the North Wing. I repeat, evacuate the North Wing." The school's fire alarm suddenly blared to life, its piercing shriek adding another layer of pandemonium to an already impossible situation. Classroom doors burst open as teachers herded confused, frightened children into the hallways. Many of the kids were crying, not understanding why their normal Tuesday had transformed into an emergency. Principal Helen Wright stood at the intersection of two hallways, directing the evacuation with mechanical efficiency while her mind churned with doubt. Had she made the right call? Should she have ordered Rodriguez to physically drag those dogs away? A little girl's life hung in the balance, and they'd chosen to trust animals over human judgment. In the main hallway, Thor and Ace remained at their posts, even as Officer Lisa Chen tried to coax them away. "Ace, come, that's an order." But the Belgian Malinois wouldn't budge. Both dogs stood like sentinels, their bodies tense, their noses still working frantically. Whatever they detected was getting worse, not better. "Marcus, we need to move these dogs," Lisa called out, her usual calm shaken. "If there really is a gas leak here." "They won't leave," Marcus interrupted, jogging back toward his partner. He understood now what was happening. Thor wasn't just alerting to danger, he was guarding against it. The dog had positioned himself to save lives, and he wouldn't abandon that post until the threat passed or everyone was safe. It was both magnificent and terrifying. Marcus knelt beside Thor, placing his hand on the German shepherd's broad head. The dog's dark eyes met his handler's, and in that moment Marcus saw something he'd never quite seen before: pure, unwavering determination. Thor knew. Somehow, impossibly, the dog understood the stakes better than any human present. "Okay, boy," Marcus whispered, his throat tight. "You've done your job, everyone's evacuating. Now we need to go too." He clipped a lead to Thor's collar and gently tugged. This time, reluctantly, Thor allowed himself to be led away from the corridor. Ace followed suit with Lisa, both dogs looking back repeatedly as they retreated. Meanwhile, in the gymnasium, Jake's team finally burst through the double doors. The cavernous space smelled of old basketballs and teenage sweat, ordinary, familiar scents that felt absurdly normal given the circumstances. Their footsteps echoed off the polished floor as they raced toward the far exit. "Almost there," Christina encouraged, though she wasn't sure if she was reassuring Emma, Diana, or herself. Diana's legs burned with exertion, but maternal adrenaline pushed her forward. Her daughter's hand felt too cold, too limp in hers. "Stay with me, Mija," she pleaded in a hoarse whisper. "Please stay with me. We're almost to the hospital, just hold on." Emma's eyelids fluttered weakly. Somewhere in her oxygen-deprived brain, she heard her mother's voice like an anchor in stormy seas. She wanted to respond, wanted to squeeze that familiar hand, but her body wouldn't cooperate. Everything felt distant, as if she were floating underwater. The gymnasium's emergency exit loomed ahead, a metal door with a bright red push bar. Freedom, medical care, hope. Jake reached it first, slamming his palm against the bar. The door flew open, flooding the dim gymnasium with brilliant afternoon sunlight. Fresh air rushed in, cool and clean. "Go, go, go," Jake commanded, and they pushed Emma's gurney through the doorway and down the concrete ramp. The ambulance had been moved to this location, its back doors already open, waiting to receive its critical patient. Sarah Chen had followed them through the alternate route, her nurse's instincts refusing to let her abandon Emma until she was safely in the ambulance. She helped guide the gurney up the ambulance's rear ramp, her experienced hands steadying the IV bag. "I'm coming with you," Diana stated firmly, climbing into the ambulance before anyone could protest. Jake nodded. There was no time to argue, no time for procedure. "Christina, you drive. Fastest route to Children's Hospital. I'll work on Emma in the back." The ambulance doors slammed shut. The siren wailed to life. Christina gunned the engine, and the vehicle lurched forward, racing toward Interstate 94 and the hospital 12 miles away. Inside the ambulance, Jake worked with focused intensity. He adjusted Emma's oxygen flow, checked her IV line, monitored her vitals. Her heart rate was stabilizing slightly, but her oxygen saturation remained dangerously low. Her brain had been deprived of adequate oxygen for too long. "Come on, sweetheart," Jake murmured, inserting a second IV line. "Fight for us. Your mama needs you. Fight." Back at Roosevelt Elementary, the evacuation was nearly complete. Hundreds of children and staff members gathered in the parking lot and on the soccer field, far from the building. Fire trucks were screaming up the street, their sirens harmonizing with the school's alarm. Marcus and Lisa stood with their dogs near the perimeter they'd established, both officers breathing hard, their minds still processing the insanity of the last 10 minutes. "Do you really think there's a gas leak?" Lisa asked, watching firefighters in full gear approach the building with detection equipment. Marcus looked down at Thor, who had finally relaxed slightly, his tongue lolling out as he panted from stress and exertion. "These dogs have saved my life before," Marcus said slowly. "In Afghanistan, a bomb detection dog stopped our convoy from driving over an IED. The handler couldn't see anything wrong, but the dog insisted. Turned out to be the most sophisticated bomb the experts had ever seen, invisible to every device we had." He paused, scratching behind Thor's ears. "I learned something that day. Dogs don't think like us. They don't doubt themselves. They don't second guess. When they alert, they're certain. More certain than we could ever be." "So you think," Lisa started to ask. The explosion cut her off. The deafening boom shattered the afternoon calm like a hammer through glass. The main hallway of Roosevelt Elementary erupted in a massive fireball, flames shooting through windows and blowing out the doors. The force of the blast sent a shockwave rippling across the schoolyard, knocking people off their feet. Glass rained down like deadly confetti. Metal twisted and shrieked. Marcus hit the ground hard, instinctively covering Thor's body with his own. His ears rang with a high-pitched whine that blocked out all other sound. For several seconds, he couldn't process what had just happened. His brain refused to accept the reality. When he finally looked up, his blood turned to ice. The entire north wing of Roosevelt Elementary was engulfed in flames. Thick black smoke billowed into the clear blue sky. Where the main hallway had been, the hallway they'd been standing in less than 3 minutes ago, there was now nothing but a smoking crater of destruction. If they had gone that way, if Jake had insisted on pushing past the dogs, if Marcus had successfully dragged Thor away from his post. Marcus's hands began to shake uncontrollably as the full weight of realization crashed over him. Emma would be dead. Diana would be dead. Jake, Christina, Sarah, all of them would have been incinerated instantly in that corridor. The explosion would have killed a dozen people. But Thor had known. Thor had sensed what no human could detect, what no equipment had warned them about. The German Shepherd had stood his ground against orders, against logic, against every human instinct to get out of the way. Marcus looked at his partner, and Thor looked back with those intelligent dark eyes. In that moment, the bond between Handler and K9 transcended anything Marcus had ever experienced. This wasn't just a working dog. This was a guardian angel with fur and 4 legs. "Good boy," Marcus choked out, his voice breaking as tears streamed down his face. He buried his face in Thor's thick coat, his body shaking with sobs of relief, terror, and overwhelming gratitude. Such a good boy. Around them, chaos reigned as firefighters rushed to battle the blaze, but Marcus could barely process any of it. All he could think about was the crater where he'd almost led a dozen people to their deaths. Thor had saved them all. And miles away, in the back of a speeding ambulance, Emma Martinez's heart continued to beat, completely unaware that she'd just escaped death twice in 15 minutes. The flames consuming Roosevelt Elementary painted the afternoon sky in shades of orange and black. Fire Captain Derek Walsh stood at the command post, barking orders into his radio while his crew fought to contain the inferno. Water cannons blasted the building from 3 directions, but the fire seemed almost alive, hungry, refusing to be tamed. 30 years of firefighting experience told Derek this wasn't a normal fire. This was something catastrophic. Captain Firefighter Amy Rodriguez, no relation to Officer Rodriguez, emerged from the building's east wing, her face covered in soot. "You need to see this. The explosion originated from the main hallway. There's a crater, sir, a 20-foot crater where the floor used to be." Derek followed her to the perimeter, his stomach dropping as he surveyed the damage through the smoke. The entire north corridor had been obliterated. Twisted pipes jutted from the ground like broken bones. Classroom walls had been reduced to rubble. The lockers that had lined the hallway were now shredded metal scattered across a 100-yard radius. "How many casualties?" Derek asked, dreading the answer. "That's the miracle, Captain. 0. The whole corridor was empty when it blew. Everyone evacuated minutes before." Derek's eyebrows shot up. "Empty during school hours? That's impossible." Police K-9 units detected the leak somehow. They blocked the hallway and forced everyone to evacuate, saved dozens of lives. As Derek processed this information, the building inspector arrived on scene. Frank Chen had worked for the city for 23 years, and he'd never seen destruction like this outside of war zones. He donned protective gear and followed Derek toward the blast site, his inspection equipment in hand. "Gas leak?" Frank asked. "That's my guess," Derek confirmed. "But the concentration must have been massive to cause this kind of damage." Frank carefully approached the crater, his gas detector screaming warnings even now, hours after the explosion. He examined the destroyed infrastructure, taking photos, making notes. What he discovered made his blood run cold. "Derek, look at this." Frank pointed to a corroded pipe jutting from the debris. "This is the main natural gas line feeding the heating system. Look at the corrosion. This thing's been deteriorating for years. And here," he indicated a melted junction box nearby. "Faulty electrical wiring. The insulation is ancient, probably original to the building." "So the gas accumulated and the wiring provided the spark," Derek concluded grimly. "Exactly. This pipe's been leaking for months, maybe longer. Small amounts at first, nothing anyone would notice. But today something changed. Maybe vibration from the kids running during recess, maybe just metal fatigue, and the leak became a flood. Gas filled that entire corridor, concentrating in the enclosed space. All it needed was one spark." Frank pulled up the building's maintenance records on his tablet, his face growing darker with each swipe. "This school is 63 years old. The gas lines were scheduled for replacement next month. Next month, Derek. We were 30 days away from preventing this." The weight of that statement hung in the air like the smoke around them. 30 days. If the dogs hadn't detected it, if they hadn't blocked that hallway, the explosion would have happened with people inside. Children, teachers, medical personnel trying to save a little girl's life. Derek pulled out his phone and called his chief. "Sir, we need to issue an immediate city-wide inspection order. Every school building over 50 years old needs gas line checks. Today." Meanwhile, across the city at Children's Hospital of Wisconsin, Emma Martinez's battle was reaching its critical moment. Dr. Rebecca Walsh stood in Trauma Bay 3, surrounded by her team, fighting to stabilize a little girl who'd been circling the drain for the past 20 minutes. "Pressure's dropping again," called out Nurse Jennifer Santos, 70/40. Rebecca's mind raced through possibilities. The seizure had stopped, but Emma's body wasn't recovering as expected. Her oxygen levels had improved with ventilator support, but something else was wrong. The vitals didn't make sense for a simple seizure disorder. "When did the seizure start?" Rebecca asked Jake Morrison, who'd stayed to provide medical history. "About 9:15 this morning, maybe 9:20. And she was fine before that, no complaints of feeling sick." According to the school nurse, Emma was playing normally during recess. No warning signs. Rebecca pulled up Emma's medical records on the computer, scanning frantically. Medications, medications. Her eyes locked on an entry from 3 days ago. New prescription, albuterol with added corticosteroid compound. Started 2 days ago for asthma management. Oh God, Rebecca breathed. She spun to her team. This isn't just a seizure. She's in anaphylactic shock. Severe allergic reaction to her new asthma medication. Jennifer, I need epinephrine, 0.3 milligrams, and IV diphenhydramine, 50 milligrams. Now. The nurses moved with practiced precision. In the waiting room, Diana Martinez paced like a caged animal, her hands clasped in prayer. She'd been separated from Emma the moment they arrived, left alone with her terror and her pleading bargains with God. Mrs. Martinez, a hospital chaplain, approached gently. Would you like someone to sit with you? Diana shook her head, unable to speak. If she opened her mouth, she'd scream. She'd scream and never stop. Back in the trauma bay, Rebecca administered the epinephrine directly into Emma's central line. Come on, baby. Work with me here. Fight. Seconds ticked by like hours. The monitors beeped their steady, terrifying rhythm. Then a change. Emma's blood pressure began to rise, 60/40, 70/50, 80/60. Her oxygen saturation is climbing, Jennifer announced, relief flooding her voice. 92%, 94, 96. Rebecca allowed herself a breath. She's responding. Keep monitoring her closely. I want labs every hour, and someone get me an allergist consult. As Emma's color began to return from deathly pale to a healthier pink, Rebecca stepped into the hallway and approached Diana. The mother looked up with eyes full of desperate hope and devastating fear. Your daughter is stabilizing, Rebecca said gently. She had a severe allergic reaction to her new medication. We've administered treatment and she's responding well. Diana collapsed into a chair, her entire body shaking with relief. She's going to live. We're not out of the woods yet, but yes, I believe she's going to be fine. No signs of permanent damage. She was very, very lucky. Lucky didn't begin to cover it, Rebecca thought. This child had survived a life-threatening allergic reaction and, according to the news reports already flooding every channel, had narrowly missed being caught in a massive explosion. Someone upstairs was definitely watching over Emma Martinez. By evening, the story had broken nationwide. News helicopters circled the still smoldering ruins of Roosevelt Elementary. Reporters crowded the police department steps, cameras rolling, demanding answers. How had everyone escaped? How had the evacuation happened so fast? Who gave the order? And then someone mentioned the dogs. A bystander's cell phone video began circulating online, shaky footage showing Thor and Ace blocking the hallway, refusing to move despite commands and pleas. The video cut off moments before the explosion, but the timestamp confirmed it. The dogs had held their position until just 90 seconds before the blast. Within hours, #TrustTheDog was trending on Twitter. The video had been viewed 3 million times. News anchors replayed it between updates on the fire, their voices filled with wonder and disbelief. At Milwaukee Police Department headquarters, Chief Sandra Martinez, no relation to Emma, called an emergency press conference. Officer Marcus Rodriguez stood beside her, Thor sitting calmly at his side. Officer Lisa Chen and Ace flanked them on the other side. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters shouted questions over each other. How did the dogs know? Were they trained to detect gas? How many lives did they save? Marcus stepped up to the microphone, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. Thor is trained in multiple detection specialties, including hazardous materials. He detected mercaptan, the chemical added to natural gas for safety. The concentration in that hallway had reached explosive levels. If we had proceeded through that corridor, his voice caught. If I hadn't trusted my partner's instincts over my own judgment, at least 12 people would have died today. including an 8-year-old girl on her way to the hospital. He looked down at Thor, his eyes shining with unshed tears. This dog saved my life. He saved a child's life. He saved everyone's lives, and I almost ordered him to stand down. I almost didn't listen. The room fell silent. Then one reporter asked quietly, "What made you decide to trust him?" Marcus thought about that moment in the hallway, the impossible choice, logic versus instinct, human intellect versus animal intuition. "Because I looked in his eyes," Marcus said simply, "and I realized he was more certain than I've ever been about anything in my life. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust what you don't understand." As the press conference concluded, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Diana Martinez, sent from Emma's hospital room. "Thank you for listening to Thor. He brought my baby back to me. Forever grateful." Marcus showed the message to Thor as if the dog could read. "You hear that, boy? You're a hero." Thor's tail wagged once, twice, as if to say, "I was just doing my job." But everyone else knew the truth. Thor hadn't just done his job. He'd done the impossible. While firefighters battled the inferno consuming Roosevelt Elementary, another battle raged inside the sterile walls of Children's Hospital of Wisconsin. Emma Martinez lay motionless in Pediatric Intensive Care Unit Bed 7, her small body dwarfed by the medical equipment surrounding her like mechanical guardians. Tubes snaked from her arms. Wires connected her to monitors that beeped with each precious heartbeat. A ventilator breathed for her, the rhythmic hiss and click the only sound in the hushed room. Dr. Rebecca Walsh hadn't left Emma's bedside in 3 hours. Her white coat was wrinkled, her dark hair escaping its professional bun, but she refused to step away. Something about this case had gotten under her skin. Maybe it was Emma's age, the same as Rebecca's own daughter. Maybe it was the sheer improbability of everything that had happened today. But Rebecca was determined that after surviving an allergic reaction and narrowly escaping an explosion, this little girl would not die on her watch. "Labs are back," Nurse Jennifer Santos announced, handing Rebecca the tablet. Her eyes scanned the results, her brow furrowing deeper with each line. Emma's liver enzymes were elevated, a sign her organs had been stressed by the prolonged oxygen deprivation. Her kidney function was borderline. The anaphylactic shock had cascaded through her entire system like dominoes falling. "Start her on N-acetylcysteine for liver protection," Rebecca ordered. "And I want renal function checked every 2 hours, if those kidneys start to fail." "They won't," Jennifer interrupted gently, placing a hand on Rebecca's shoulder. "You caught it in time. She's going to make it." Rebecca wanted to believe that. She'd seen the epinephrine work, watched Emma's vitals stabilize, witnessed color return to those pale cheeks. But pediatric intensive care had taught her that the human body was fragile, especially a child's body. The next 24 hours would tell the story. Either Emma would continue improving, or complications would drag her back toward the edge of the abyss. In the ICU waiting room, Diana Martinez sat in a plastic chair that had become her entire world. She hadn't eaten, hadn't slept, couldn't even cry anymore. Her tears had run dry somewhere around hour 2. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from family, friends, Emma's teacher, parents from school. She ignored them all. The only person she wanted to hear from was Dr. Walsh, and only if the news was good. Diana's mother, Gabriella, had driven from Chicago the moment she heard, arriving windswept and terrified. She sat beside her daughter now, clutching Diana's hand, murmuring prayers in Spanish. "Dios te salve, Maria, Lina eres de gracia." "Mama," Diana whispered, her voice raw. "I can't lose her. She's everything. She's my whole world." "You won't lose her, Mija. God has plans for that little girl. She didn't survive this day by accident." On the television mounted in the corner, news coverage continued nonstop. Diana had tried to ignore it, but now her attention was drawn to the screen. Aerial footage showed Roosevelt Elementary, or what remained of it. The north wing had collapsed entirely. Flames still licked at the rubble despite hours of firefighting efforts. The explosion occurred at approximately 11:47 a.m., the news anchor reported. Incredibly, there were no casualties. Officials credit an emergency evacuation ordered just minutes before the blast. The evacuation was triggered by 2 police K-9 units that detected the gas leak using their heightened sense of smell. The screen cut to shaky cell phone footage. Diana leaned forward, recognizing the hallway immediately. She'd walked it hundreds of times for parent-teacher conferences, school events, picking Emma up early for doctor's appointments. In the video, a massive German shepherd blocked the corridor, refusing to move despite obvious attempts to make him stand down. Behind him, a Belgian Malinois joined the blockade. "Those dogs," Diana breathed, understanding flooding through her. "Those dogs stopped the paramedics. They wouldn't let us through." Gabriella's eyes widened. "You were there in that hallway." "We were trying to get Emma to the ambulance. The dog blocked us. I was so angry, Mama. I was screaming at them to move. I thought," Diana's voice broke, "I thought they were killing my baby by delaying us, but they were saving her life. They were saving all of us." The news cut to a press conference. Officer Marcus Rodriguez stood at a podium, the German shepherd Thor, according to the caption, sitting beside him. Diana watched as Marcus explained what had happened, his voice thick with emotion as he described the impossible decision to trust his dog over human logic. "He saved everyone's lives," Marcus was saying, "and I almost didn't listen to him." Diana felt something crack open inside her chest. All day she'd been angry, at the dog, at the officers, at the delay that had felt like an eternity. But now she understood. That delay, those precious minutes that had seemed like Emma's death sentence, had actually been her salvation. If they'd gone through that hallway, the ambulance crew would be dead. The officers would be dead. Diana herself would be dead. And Emma wouldn't have even made it to the hospital. "I need to thank them," Diana said suddenly, standing up. "I need to thank those officers and their dogs." "Diana, you can't leave." "I'll be right back. I just need." What did she need? To acknowledge the impossible gift she'd been given, to apologize for her anger, to somehow express gratitude for something beyond words. Dr. Rebecca Walsh emerged from the ICU at that moment, pulling off her surgical cap. Diana rushed toward her, Gabriella close behind. "How is she?" Diana's heart hammered against her ribs. Rebecca smiled, the first genuine smile Diana had seen on any doctor's face all day. "She's stable, better than stable actually. She's waking up." Diana's knees nearly buckled. "Waking up, she's conscious." "Been moving for the past 20 minutes. Fighting the ventilator, which is actually a great sign, means she can breathe on her own. We're going to extubate her in the next hour." Rebecca's professional mask slipped slightly, revealing the relief underneath. "Mrs. Martinez, your daughter is going to be okay. We'll need to keep her for observation, probably 72 hours minimum, but barring any unexpected complications, Emma's going to make a full recovery. No brain damage, no organ failure." She got incredibly lucky. Lucky, that word again. Diana thought about the chain of events that had brought them here, the seizure that could have killed Emma, the blocked hallway that had saved her life, the dogs that had sensed invisible death, the doctors who diagnosed and treated a reaction that masqueraded as something else. This wasn't luck, this was a miracle. "Can I see her?" Diana asked, wiping tears from her eyes, tears of joy this time, not despair. "In a few minutes. We're moving her to a private room. I'll come get you as soon as she's settled." As Rebecca walked away, Diana pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She found the Milwaukee Police Department's number and dialed. When the dispatcher answered, Diana said, "I need to reach Officer Marcus Rodriguez. I need to thank him and his dog for saving my daughter's life." "Ma'am, Officer Rodriguez is currently giving interviews, but I can take a message." "Tell him Diana Martinez called. Tell him Emma, the little girl from Roosevelt Elementary, is going to be okay. And tell him," Diana's voice cracked. "Tell him Thor is a hero. Tell him I'm sorry I yelled. Tell him he and that beautiful dog brought my baby back to me." When Diana hung up, she found Gabriella watching her with proud, tearful eyes. "That's my girl," Gabriella whispered, "always finding the good even in the darkness." Diana looked at the television, where footage of Thor and Ace played on repeat. Two dogs who'd followed their instincts against all human logic. Two dogs who'd stood their ground when everyone demanded they move. Two dogs who'd saved a dozen lives without understanding medals or glory or gratitude. "They're not just heroes, Mama," Diana said softly. "They're angels." And in that moment, as the sun set over Milwaukee, casting golden light through the hospital windows, Diana Martinez understood that sometimes salvation comes with 4 legs and a wet nose, sensing dangers invisible to human eyes. Sometimes the guardians we need most are the ones we never expect. And sometimes, just sometimes, the delays that feel like death sentences are actually the hands of grace pulling us back from the edge. Emma was alive. The dogs had made sure of it. And that was the only miracle Diana needed. By Wednesday morning, Thor and Ace's story had exploded across every corner of the internet. What started as local Milwaukee news had transformed into a global phenomenon that transcended borders, languages, and cultures. The cell phone video of Thor blocking the hallway had been viewed over 50 million times. News networks from Japan to Germany to Brazil were covering the story. The world had fallen in love with 2 dogs who defied orders to save lives. At Milwaukee Police Department headquarters, Public Information Officer Karen Sullivan's phone hadn't stopped ringing since 6 a.m. Requests for interviews flooded in from Good Morning America, CNN, BBC World News, even The Ellen Show. Social media had gone absolutely nuclear. #Trust the Dog was the #1 trending topic worldwide. #K9 Heroes wasn't far behind. "Officer Rodriguez," Karen said, finding Marcus in the break room with Thor at his feet. "You need to see this." She pulled up her tablet, showing him the explosion of content. There were paintings of Thor and Ace rendered in heroic poses. Digital artists had created movie posters featuring the dogs. Musicians had written songs. Children's books were being pitched to publishers. A petition to award both dogs the Presidential Medal of Freedom had gathered 2 million signatures in 12 hours. Marcus stared at the screen, overwhelmed. "This is insane." "This is beautiful," Karen corrected gently. "People need heroes right now, Marcus, and Thor gave them one." The interview requests were impossible to refuse. By noon, Marcus found himself sitting across from local news anchor Christine Park, cameras rolling, Thor lying calmly at his side. Christine's eyes were already glistening with emotion before she asked her first question. "Officer Rodriguez, take us back to that moment. When did you realize something was wrong?" Marcus's hand unconsciously moved to Thor's head, fingers scratching behind the dog's ears, a gesture of comfort for both of them. "Thor has been my partner for 4 years. I know his body language better than I know my own, but I'd never seen him act like this. He wasn't being disobedient or stubborn. He was certain, absolutely certain that we couldn't go through that hallway. You had a little girl dying. Medical professionals were demanding you move your dog. What made you decide to trust him?" Marcus's eyes grew distant, revisiting that impossible choice. "I served in Afghanistan. I saw what bomb detection dogs could do, how they'd alert to dangers we couldn't see, couldn't detect with any equipment. I watched a dog save my entire convoy once. The handler said something I never forgot. Dogs don't have egos. They don't guess. When they alert, they know." He paused, his voice thickening. "In that hallway, I looked at Thor and I saw that same certainty. And I realized I had a choice. Trust my human logic or trust my partner's instincts. I chose to trust Thor, even knowing it might cost a little girl her life." Marcus nodded, tears now visible in his eyes. That's what made it so hard, but if Thor was right, If there really was danger in that corridor, taking Emma through there wouldn't have saved her life. It would have ended it along with everyone else's. The interview clip went viral within hours. Marcus's emotional honesty, his willingness to show vulnerability, resonated with millions. Comments poured in by the thousands. This is what leadership looks like. He trusted his partner when every human instinct said not to. That's courage. I'm not crying, you're crying. But the moment that truly broke the internet came later that afternoon. Diana Martinez, with permission from the hospital, recorded a video message from Emma's room. Emma herself was visible in the background, awake now, color restored to her cheeks, looking small but alive in the hospital bed. Diana faced the camera, her voice strong despite the tears streaming down her face. My name is Diana Martinez. My daughter Emma is 8 years old. Yesterday, she nearly died twice. Once from an allergic reaction and once from an explosion that would have killed us all. She paused, composing herself. When those dogs blocked the hallway, I was furious. I screamed at Officer Rodriguez. I demanded he move Thor. I was convinced they were killing my baby by delaying us. Diana's voice broke. But they weren't delaying us. They were saving us. Thor and Ace saw what we couldn't see. They knew what we couldn't know. And they refused to let us walk into death. Behind her, Emma stirred and Diana turned. Emma, honey, do you want to say something? The little girl's voice was hoarse but clear. Thank you, Thor. Thank you, Ace. You're my heroes. The video ended with Diana looking directly into the camera. Officer Rodriguez, Officer Chen, you and your partners gave me my daughter back. You gave her a future. How do you thank someone for that? How do you thank 2 dogs for choosing to protect strangers instead of following orders? She wiped her eyes. You can't, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying. The video was viewed 30 million times in 24 hours. Celebrities shared it. Politicians referenced it. It was played on morning shows, evening news, late-night talk shows. The emotional rawness of Diana's gratitude, combined with Emma's small voice thanking her 4-legged saviors, touched something primal in people's hearts. Milwaukee Police Department's K-9 unit was inundated with support. Donations flooded in $50, $100, $1,000 checks from across the country. A tech billionaire from Silicon Valley sent $250,000 with a note. For the best investment humanity can make, training dogs to save lives. Local businesses organized fundraisers. Elementary school children donated their allowance money, sending handmade cards with crayon drawings of Thor and Ace. Within a week, the K-9 unit had received over $2.3 million in donations, more than their previous decade of funding combined. The money would go toward equipment, training, medical care, and expanding the program to include more detection specialties. Officer Lisa Chen and Ace were receiving similar attention. Lisa, more reserved than Marcus, still found herself moved by the public response. Ace is a good dog who did his job, she told reporters. But I think people are responding to something bigger. They're recognizing that sometimes wisdom doesn't come from degrees or technology or human intelligence. Sometimes it comes from a nose that can detect parts per billion, from instincts honed over thousands of years of evolution. The American Kennel Club announced a special commendation ceremony. The National Police Dog Foundation declared March 14th, the day of the incident, as K-9 Hero Appreciation Day. Books were being written, documentaries planned, even a feature film optioned by a major studio. But perhaps the most touching response came from children. Letters arrived by the hundreds at the Milwaukee Police Department, addressed simply to Thor or Ace. Kids wrote about their own dogs, about times they'd been scared, about dreams of becoming K-9 officers. Teachers reported that trust your instincts had become a classroom motto. Parents shared stories of teaching their children about the importance of listening, really listening, to those who communicate differently. One letter from a 7-year-old named Sophie was particularly poignant. Dear Thor, my dog Buddy is old and can't see good anymore. But last week he started barking at the stove when nothing was on it. My mom thought he was confused because he's old. But then the firemen came and said there was a gas leak we couldn't smell. Buddy saved us like you saved Emma. Dogs are the best heroes because they don't do it for medals. They do it because they love us. Thank you for teaching people to listen to dogs. Love, Sophie. Marcus read the letter to Thor as if the dog could understand. And maybe, in his own way, he did. Thor's tail wagged slowly, his dark eyes calm and knowing. That evening, Marcus took Thor home to his small house in the suburbs. His wife, Angela, had made Thor's favorite meal, grilled chicken with sweet potatoes. Their 2 children, Miguel and Sophia, couldn't stop hugging the German shepherd, treating him like the celebrity he'd become. "Dad," Miguel asked, "is Thor going to be on TV again?" Marcus smiled, watching his partner eat contentedly, completely unbothered by fame or attention. "Probably. But you know what? Thor doesn't care about any of that. He's just happy to be here, to be doing his job, to be with his family." "Like a real hero," Sophia said wisely. "Exactly like a real hero." Outside, the world continued celebrating Thor and Ace. But inside Marcus Rodriguez's home, in the quiet normalcy of family dinner, the real story unfolded. The story of trust, of partnership, of bonds between species that transcend language and logic. Thor had saved lives not for glory, but because that's what partners do. And the world, finally, was paying attention. 2 weeks after the explosion, Children's Hospital of Wisconsin prepared to discharge their most famous patient. Emma Martinez sat on the edge of her hospital bed, dressed in comfortable clothes her mother had brought from home, swinging her legs with barely contained energy. The little girl who'd arrived unconscious and dying was now chattering excitedly about everything she'd missed: her friends, her toys, her favorite shows, and most of all, the dogs everyone kept talking about. "Mama, are we really going to meet them today?" Emma asked for the dozenth time, her dark eyes sparkling with anticipation. Diana smiled, braiding her daughter's hair with practiced fingers. "Yes, Mija. Thor and Ace will be at the ceremony this afternoon. They're waiting to meet you." Dr. Rebecca Walsh entered with Emma's discharge papers, her professional demeanor softening as she looked at her miracle patient. "Emma Martinez, you are officially cleared for discharge. Your labs look perfect. Your neurological function is completely normal. You young lady are one lucky girl." "I know," Emma said solemnly. "Thor and Ace saved me, and you saved me. Everyone saved me." Rebecca knelt beside Emma's bed, eye to eye with the child. "That's right. And now you need to do something for all of us who saved you. You need to live your very best life. Deal?" Emma threw her arms around Rebecca's neck. "Deal." The hospital staff had organized a goodbye parade. Nurses, doctors, orderlies, and cafeteria workers lined the hallway as Diana wheeled Emma toward the exit in the mandatory wheelchair. They clapped and cheered, many wiping away tears. Emma waved like a princess, soaking in every moment of attention. But the real celebration awaited at the temporary school location, a community center where Roosevelt Elementary students had been attending classes since the explosion. Principal Helen Wright had organized a special assembly, but word had spread, and what started as a school event had become a citywide celebration. The parking lot was packed. News vans lined the street, their satellite dishes pointing skyward. A stage had been erected outside the community center, decorated with blue and gold balloons, the school colors. Hundreds of people milled around: students, parents, teachers, city officials, and curious community members who simply wanted to witness this moment. When Diana's car pulled into the reserved parking spot, a cheer erupted from the crowd. Emma emerged, still a bit wobbly but grinning from ear to ear. Her classmates surged forward, held back only by teachers' gentle reminders to give Emma space. "Emma, Emma," they chanted, holding handmade signs. "Welcome back, Emma, our brave friend." Emma plus Thor equals heroes. Sophia, Emma's best friend who'd witnessed the seizure, broke through the crowd and wrapped Emma in a desperate hug. Both girls dissolved into tears. "I thought you died," Sophia sobbed. "I thought I lost you forever." "I'm okay," Emma whispered back. "I'm okay now." Mayor Jennifer Williams took the stage as the ceremony began, calling for quiet. "Today, we gather not just to celebrate Emma Martinez's recovery, but to honor two extraordinary K-9 officers whose instincts saved lives. Roosevelt Elementary suffered a tragedy, but through that tragedy, we witnessed something remarkable. We witnessed trust, courage, and the incredible bond between humans and their animal partners." The crowd applauded. Mayor Williams continued, "I've lived in Milwaukee my entire life. I've seen floods, blizzards, and challenges that tested our community, but I have never seen anything like what happened on March 14th, and I have never been more proud of our first responders." She gestured to the side of the stage. "Please welcome Officer Marcus Rodriguez and Thor, and Officer Lisa Chen and Ace." The crowd erupted as Marcus and Lisa walked onto the stage, their K-9 partners moving with perfect precision beside them. Thor's coat gleamed in the afternoon sun. Ace's ears were perked forward, alert and dignified. Both dogs wore special ceremonial collars for the occasion. But when Emma saw Thor for the first time, everything else faded away. That was the dog everyone had been telling her about. The dog who'd saved her life when she didn't even know she needed saving. The dog who'd stood between her and death without hesitation. "Thor," Emma whispered, and somehow, across the noise and distance, the German shepherd's ears swiveled toward her voice. Marcus noticed Thor's attention shift and followed the dog's gaze to the small girl standing near the front of the crowd. Their eyes met, officer and child, and Marcus understood. He descended the stage steps, Thor keeping perfect pace beside him. The crowd fell silent as Marcus and Thor approached Emma. Diana's hand found her daughter's shoulder, steadying her. When they were just a few feet apart, Marcus knelt, bringing himself to Emma's eye level. "Emma," Marcus said gently, "this is Thor. Thor, this is the little girl you protected." For a moment, Emma just stared at the magnificent dog before her. Thor sat calmly, his dark eyes meeting hers with surprising gentleness. Then Emma took a tentative step forward, reaching out her small hand. Thor's nose touched her palm, sniffing, recognizing, accepting. And then Emma broke. All the fear, all the confusion, all the impossible weight of everything she'd been through crashed over her. She threw her arms around Thor's thick neck and sobbed deep, wrenching sobs that shook her small frame. Thor remained perfectly still, letting this child pour her heart out into his fur. His tail wagged once, twice, slow and gentle. When Emma finally pulled back, her face wet with tears, Thor licked her cheek with surprising tenderness. "You saved me," Emma whispered, her voice breaking. "Everyone says you saved me, and I don't even remember, but thank you so much." Marcus felt his own eyes burning. "Emma, do you know why Thor wouldn't let us go through that hallway?" Emma shook her head. "Because he knew something was wrong. He smelled danger that we couldn't smell, and he decided that protecting you was more important than following orders. That's what heroes do. They choose to protect others, even when it's hard." Officer Lisa Chen had joined them with Ace, and Emma turned to the Belgian Malinois with equal reverence. "Thank you too, Ace. You're both my heroes forever." The ceremony continued with Mayor Williams presenting both dogs with the city's Medal of Valor, the first time in Milwaukee history that K-9 officers received the honor. Custom medals had been created, designed to hang comfortably on their collars. As the mayor placed the medals, photographers captured the moment from every angle. But the most touching moment came when Emma's entire third-grade class approached the stage, each child carrying something. They'd spent the past 2 weeks creating handmade gifts for Thor and Ace, portraits drawn in crayon, clay sculptures of dogs, thank you cards decorated with glitter and stickers, and an enormous bag of homemade dog treats, pre-approved by veterinarians and K9 trainers. "We wanted to say thank you," Emma's classmate Jackson explained, his voice shy, "because you saved our friend, and you saved our school from being worse." Marcus and Lisa accepted the gifts with genuine emotion, promising that Thor and Ace would treasure every single item. The bag of treats was especially popular with the dogs themselves, whose tails wagged enthusiastically at the smell. As the formal ceremony concluded, Emma approached Marcus one more time. "Officer Rodriguez." "You can call me Marcus." "Marcus," Emma said carefully, testing out his first name. "When I grow up, I want to be a K9 officer. I want to have a partner like Thor who saves people." Marcus felt something catch in his throat. He knelt again, taking Emma's hands in his. "Emma, that would be wonderful. And you know what? Thor and I will still be around for a few more years. When you're older, if you really want to learn about K9 work, you come find us. We'll teach you everything we know." Emma's face lit up like someone had switched on 1,000 lights inside her. "Really? You promise?" "I promise." Diana watched the exchange, tears streaming freely down her face. 2 weeks ago, she'd screamed at this man, blamed him for delaying her daughter's medical care, cursed his dog for blocking their path. Now she understood that Marcus Rodriguez and Thor had given her the most precious gift imaginable: her daughter's life, her daughter's future, her daughter's dreams. As the crowd began to disperse, families taking photos with Thor and Ace, children petting them under careful supervision, Marcus found a quiet moment with his partner. He scratched behind Thor's ears, the gesture as familiar as breathing. "You know you're famous now, right, boy?" Marcus murmured. "Changed a lot of lives, changed everything." Thor looked up at him with those intelligent, dark eyes, and Marcus could swear the dog understood every word. Not the specifics perhaps, but the emotion behind them. The gratitude, the love, the absolute trust that had saved so many lives. In the parking lot, Emma turned back one last time, waving enthusiastically at Thor. The German Shepherd's tail wagged in response, and Emma's laughter rang out, pure, joyful, alive. A sound that might never have existed if one dog hadn't trusted his instincts over orders. If one handler hadn't trusted his partner over logic. If courage hadn't worn fur and walked on 4 legs. The reunion was over, but the bond it created would last forever. 1 year later, on March 14th, 2024, the city of Milwaukee gathered once again. But this time, the setting was dramatically different. Where Roosevelt Elementary's charred ruins had stood, a magnificent new building now rose against the spring sky. State-of-the-art construction gleamed in the morning sun. Reinforced steel, modern safety systems, and most importantly, completely updated gas lines that met every current safety code. The grand reopening ceremony drew thousands. Governor Sarah Mitchell had made the drive from Madison. Local news crews documented every moment, but the true guests of honor stood near the new main entrance, waiting for the unveiling that would immortalize a moment of impossible courage. Emma Martinez, now 9 years old and radiating health, stood between Officer Marcus Rodriguez and Thor. She'd grown taller in the past year, her confidence blooming like flowers after rain. True to her promise, Emma had visited the K9 unit every single week, learning about dog training, care, and the incredible bond between handlers and their partners. She'd become a fixture at the police department, the little girl who'd survived and now thrived. "Are you ready, Emma?" Marcus asked, his hand resting on the cloth covering the memorial. Emma nodded, squeezing Thor's ceremonial lead. The German Shepherd, now 5 years old, stood as magnificent as ever, his Medal of Valor gleaming on his collar. Beside them, Officer Lisa Chen and Ace completed the group, both dog and handler equally dignified. Principal Helen Wright approached the microphone, her voice carrying across the assembled crowd. 1 year ago, this school experienced a tragedy that could have been catastrophic, But instead of a story of loss, we witnessed a miracle of trust, instinct, and courage. Today, we honor that miracle. She gestured to Emma. "Would you do the honors?" Emma stepped forward, her mother Diana watching with proud tears already streaming. The little girl grasped the corner of the cloth covering the memorial and pulled. The fabric fell away, revealing a stunning bronze statue. Thor and Ace stood captured in metal, their powerful forms alert and protective. Thor's head was raised, nose to the wind, capturing the exact moment he detected the invisible danger. Ace stood beside him, equally vigilant. At their feet, cast in bronze, were small handprints, children's handprints, representing all the students they'd protected that day. The plaque beneath read, "In memory of instinct over logic. March 14, 2023. Thor and Ace, K9 heroes who trusted their senses. Officer Marcus Rodriguez and Officer Lisa Chen, handlers who trusted their partners. When wisdom wore fur and walked on four legs, lives were saved. Trust those who protect without words." The crowd erupted in applause. Emma placed her hand on the bronze Thor, the metal cool beneath her palm. This statue would stand here forever, reminding every child who entered this school that heroes come in unexpected forms. But the memorial was just the beginning of Thor and Ace's legacy. Governor Mitchell stepped forward with a folder of documents. 1 year ago, 2 K9 officers detected a gas leak that human technology missed. Their actions prompted an emergency audit across Wisconsin. I'm here today to announce the results of that audit and the changes it created. She opened the folder. 47 schools across our state were found to have dangerous gas line deterioration. Every single one has now been repaired or replaced. We've passed legislation, the Thor and Ace Safety Act, requiring annual K9 safety sweeps of all public buildings over 50 years old. We've invested $12 million in expanding K9 programs statewide, with special focus on hazard detection. The governor looked at Thor and Ace. 2 dogs changed how we think about public safety. 2 dogs saved not just 12 lives that day, but potentially hundreds in the years to come. The impact extended far beyond Wisconsin. School districts across America had begun implementing similar programs. K9 training facilities reported unprecedented enrollment. The story had sparked a national conversation about trusting animal instincts and investing in K9 programs. Research institutions had even launched studies on canine detection capabilities, discovering that dogs could detect natural gas concentrations as low as 1 part per million, far beyond any mechanical sensor. Thor and Ace had become case studies in K9 training programs worldwide, their story teaching handlers the crucial lesson: when your dog alerts, trust them. As the ceremony continued, Diana Martinez took the microphone, her voice steady now where it had once broken. "My daughter stands here today because 2 dogs refused to follow orders, because 2 officers trusted their partners over protocol, because courage sometimes means stopping instead of going forward." She looked at Marcus and Lisa. "You gave me my daughter back, but you also gave her a purpose. Emma wants to be a K9 officer now. She wants to be like you, someone who listens, who trusts, who understands that wisdom comes in many forms." Emma stepped up beside her mother, no longer the shy little girl who'd nearly died. "I don't remember the explosion," Emma said clearly into the microphone. "I don't remember Thor blocking the hallway, but I remember waking up in the hospital and learning that a dog saved my life. A dog who couldn't talk but could communicate something more important than words." She turned to Thor, kneeling to wrap her arms around his neck. "Thank you for teaching me that heroes don't need to be big or strong or loud. Sometimes they just need to be certain and brave enough to make others listen." Thor's tail wagged, his muzzle pushing gently against Emma's shoulder. In the years since the incident, a special bond had formed between them. Emma had become Thor's favorite visitor, the little girl whose life he'd saved and who now represented his purpose, protecting the innocent. The ceremony concluded with the school choir singing a song written specifically for the occasion, Trust the Guardian. As children's voices rose in harmony, Emma held Thor's lead, standing tall and proud beside her hero. After the official events ended, Marcus found a quiet moment alone with Thor near the memorial statue. He looked at the bronze version of his partner, then at the living, breathing dog beside him. "You know, boy," Marcus said softly, "I've been thinking about that day a lot. What if I hadn't listened? What if I'd overruled you?" Thor looked up at him with those knowing dark eyes. "I guess what I'm saying is, you taught me something bigger than just trusting your nose. You taught me that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is admit we don't know everything. That sometimes wisdom comes from trusting those who see the world differently than we do." He scratched behind Thor's ears, a gesture of love and respect. "You didn't just save lives that day. You changed lives, changed me, changed how people think about K-9 partners, changed everything." As the sun set over the new Roosevelt Elementary, casting golden light across the bronze memorial, families gathered for photos with Thor and Ace. Children petted them gently, parents thanked them tearfully, and Emma Martinez, alive, healthy, dreaming of her future, stood as living proof that miracles sometimes have 4 legs and a wet nose. The legacy of March 14th, 2023 would echo through generations. Children who attended this school would grow up seeing that statue every day, learning that courage means trusting your instincts even when everyone doubts you. That heroes don't always look like we expect. That sometimes the most important voice in the room is the one that doesn't speak with words. Thor and Ace had done more than detect a gas leak. They'd reminded humanity of something essential we'd forgotten, that we're not alone in this world, that we share it with creatures whose senses, instincts, and loyalty can save us in ways we never imagined. As Marcus and Thor walked toward their patrol car, Emma ran up one last time. "Same time next week?" she asked hopefully. "Wouldn't miss it," Marcus replied. "Thor's counting on you." Emma hugged Thor one more time, then watched as the K-9 unit drove away, beginning their evening patrol. Somewhere in the city, Thor would use his incredible nose to detect drugs or explosives or maybe, just maybe, another invisible danger that would save more lives. Because that's what heroes do. They protect, they serve, they trust their instincts when logic fails. And sometimes, they teach us that salvation comes not from what we can see or understand, but from trusting those who sense what we cannot. Thor's legacy would live forever in bronze, in legislation, in Emma's dreams, and in every K-9 unit that heard his story and learned to trust their partners completely. One dog, one moment of certainty, one handler brave enough to listen. And countless lives saved, forever changed, eternally grateful. The end.